What's up, Live Freedom? Yo, Bob, Sunny Turbo, Dawn, Fine Jamie Valdez. Of course, brother. Alright, I got. Well, let's do the fade out. I'll be adding DJ Pooh, aka DJ Brixx, name after the live. Let me do the little fade out, a little gentle now. Let's get the face only a mother can love. That's me, okay. So proud. I'm so proud of the original artwork, the original music that is sent to me by you amazing people, by the topics that I have just taken the time to look at in my emails. And trust me, today was like the first day I took maybe 16 hours to myself and not really thought about much else. And then lo and behold, and I'm gonna try my best not to go in a certain direction so I can stay on point and on focus with the. Well, these are just facts. There's nothing conspiracy. There's no allegation. I found a thank you to the person, the individual. I don't know if you want to be or remain anonymous for sending the material that you did and that I have chosen to cover near immediately after I saw just a few clips. So I collected a bunch and we're going to do a deep dive. But unfortunately, that's not what compelled me to go on, okay? Hello, birthday chat supervisor, Justin Warren. Just me, Joy. It's a joy to have you. What's up, Shade and Sean? Let's see. Okay. Power Stroke No Jokes, amazing live yesterday. Yes, there's been, as we all know, the what's-his-face fella. He went back in and is going ham and kind of disavows and doesn't really mention a thing about what he has, or should I say, been accused of, what was spoken. It has gone pretty much ignored. And he dismisses the woman, his ex-wife, as just being a drunk and nothing more. And he does not address some very specific things. And you know what, though? I guess so be it. And it's two, I'm going to just call them what the hell they are. Two little trolls that are in Creek Squad that talk smack about Creek Squad, trying to pit Creek Squatters against one another for their own entertainment means and gains. I'll leave your names anonymous, even though I've covered you guys before. You are a duo. You keep on keeping on with your nonsense. And I'm going to get it to everybody in Creek Squad so they know that you're trying to play them all. Aside from drama, though, I'm here for real fucking issues. So let's jump right in, shall we? I want one day to go by where we can truly be unified and just pay attention to what's in front of us. Let me close this email. Thank you. Let me see the name if it's somebody that is okay with. Now that's a real name, so I will not disclose. But you know who you are, and feel free to own up for being the one to show this to me. Man, it's hard to choose which one to start with. I'm gonna start with the shortest one. So let's flip it here. Okay. Viewer discretion advised. I know YouTube is not going to allow this one to get fully monetized. That's okay. Them's the breaks. The message, the truth is more important than anything else, okay? I can't deny, of course, I'm trying to make something more of this so that I could do this every damn day of my life because I love it, and I love you all that are here supporting the cause, the mission, and everything else. And I'm still in contact with the people that want to use the platform and speak and bring truth to their message and experiences. I've done that even for the trolls that won't stop trying to start crap. So let's see. This is our 200th rescue, or 2000th, I'm sorry. I, personally, I've never seen anything about this video. I just checked if it was copywritten. And if this was shared, just a bunch of links about, okay, once I say it, it's out there, and then the video is going to go in a certain direction. Harvesting, human trafficking, things that go weirder and deeper and more disgusting. And it's all tied between elites in Hollywood and our trusted government. So Let me
so
see
excited to share with you
what this is about.
2,000 person that's been rescued. She originally was from Africa, and she heard about a job opportunity in the Middle East. She got on an airplane and showed up in the Middle East, not knowing anyone, and her passport was immediately taken from her. So the false employment agencies are traffickers. This is a common story for a lot of girls when they are desperate to provide for themselves or for their family. The girls that are being trafficked think that they are going to have a fabulous...
Be sure to support what these people are doing, Operation Underground Railroad.
...job. They think that they're going to make enough money for themselves and for their family. And so they sign up with these employment agencies who buy them an airplane ticket, and then they say that there's someone that will meet you in the Middle East when you land. Almost immediately, their passport is taken from them. And so now you're in a country you've never been to, and you no longer have proof of documentation. Rachel arrived.
It makes you completely malleable, and you can be used and abused, and no one would really care unless you have a decent human being that can actually see what's happening. But so much of what happens is in control of the people that are in power, and the people that are in power don't care about everyday people like us.
In the Middle East, they beat her, they starved her, they made her work 18 hours a day with little to no food, even at the end of the day when she got done. And then they also forced her to perform sexual acts. She felt like she wanted to commit suicide, or that she would die at the hands of these traffickers that were holding her captive.
And then, of course, she was hanging on for dear life. She needed help. We have a Ghanaian girl, there's debt bondage, she's got to pay all this amount of money, and we're trying to raise the money. But we don't think we have enough resources to buy her out and also repatriate.
Just a quick connection. You see how it's the same strategy, the same game, just a different country, different means. They pretty much ensure your servitude by keeping you in debt. Does that not sound familiar? Keeping you in debt here, even as a citizen of the United States, keeps you within the system and tracked, and pretty much you're living for not only your own survival, but you're living for the masters that own you. Not being hyperbolic, this is what it looks like unregulated, I suppose, or just in different countries.
I put on my thinking cap, and my thoughts ran to Jessica.
And that is the founder and CEO of Rahab Uganda, an aftercare center she started in her home country of Uganda. In addition to rehabilitation, she helps victims receive formal and vocational education.
Rachel has a very similar case to many other girls when they get into what's called debt bondage. And what that means is when the trafficker from the country of origin helps them get to the Middle East, they say that you now owe me this much money for your flight and for all of the documentation. So that puts them into debt bondage right from the beginning.
Never accept a kind gesture and favor from a stranger unless you know them, or you can tell there's no strings attached. But in the world we live in, clearly there's always some end game, and it's always nefarious and gross, grotesque even.
And then when the girl escapes or is able to flee from the person that's holding her captive, then they have what's called an overstay fee. So the police picks them up, but then they get charged for every day that they are there that they don't have documentation, in order for that girl to actually be able to return to her home country.
So if you escape from these traffickers that are making you do everything ill under the sun, the system or the country that you have been found to be victimized in gets to profiteer off of your abuse, because you're there without your passport, and now you're being charged for escaping and being saved. Gotta love how these systems work, man. They got good at this, didn't they? And it's closer to home. There is gonna be one video that I found, and it's not on this platform, and I'm risking I'm taking a risk by playing it, but there are certain truths that cannot be silenced.
She has to be able to pay back the debt bondage, and she has to be able to pay her overstay fees. And that was the situation for Rachel.
Hey, Big Matt.
So Annette reached out to me and said, there's a girl that's been trafficked to the Middle East, and I know that you guys have helped girls get home, and is there anything that you guys could do to help? We were able to arrange her getting released from prison to go onto the airplane to get back to Africa. And so Annette and her husband and family went to the airport and personally picked her up and took her back to the aftercare home. One of the things that we require with helping girls get back is that there's always aftercare. We want girls that when they return to wherever they were trafficked from to make sure that there is solid and quality care.
So we picked her up, and some of the girls at the home were still up.
When my first Google direct deposit happens, it has not happened yet, believe it or not. This is my first foundation that I promised to donate to. A lot of the proceeds, aside from spiffing up the podcasting possibility and equipment, it is going to be to donate to as many of the nefarious agencies that are out there that you, the good people of our community that we're trying to build, get to my attention. So I just wanted to make that public.
She received a warm welcome. It's been a rough journey. She's sleeping better now, but we're happy to put together a few resources to help her start her business.
It was amazing to follow up with Rachel about a month after she was rescued. She got to tell me about what her hopes and her dreams were. She had come to a point of healing where she had been able to start thinking about...
Yes, Dawn, please provide the link for the Facebook group. Give it to a mod or just post it. I would love to get as many resources because I promise you the majority of the people within this community want to help your family. Okay, you're the first case that came upon this channel.
Those things again. Her dream is to become
that Facebook group has almost 2,000 people.
Fashion designer. I cannot tell you how incredible it was to see her smile, to see her living in freedom. One of the things that she said to me was, "You've rescued me from the dead."
Well, I gotta clearly subscribe.
If it's just for the one, it's always worth it. If it was all just for Rachel, it's
OurRescue.org. I'm going to assume that the title, Our 2000th Rescue, that's 2,000 women, children that were taken out of a trafficking situation where they were also sexually abused and worked to the bone. Now, okay, this is kind of a roulette here I'm going to pick. There's the one right here that I know could possibly get me in trouble. And then there's an interesting, well, you know what? Let's go with the devil I know instead of the devil I don't. The Dr. Drew one is a man that has come forward about human trafficking and organ harvesting rings, and he is a former Navy SEAL. And I just paused it right at the moment where Dr. Drew is like, let's talk about human trafficking. And then this, I think, is familiar. I'm only going to play tidbits, and I recognize this man's face. He's done some good work and exposed some things, and I think he used to work with the CIA. What is this? It says the Ukraine thing in there. I'm going to be careful, but I'm going to hit the play button because you live once.
And for those of you who don't know who Kevin Shipp is, he's a CIA whistleblower. He worked in counterintelligence, and he served in many capacities in his tenure at the CIA.
This is The Big Picture, an official television report to the nation from the United States Army.
CIA in Hollywood.
was an OSS memo, the precursor to the CIA, where they were doing a study of the use of motion pictures in America as a means of psychological warfare. So it goes all the way back to pre-1947, when U.S. intelligence was using motion pictures to alter the thinking of Americans in the United States.
Mockingbird.
The morale of our troops is high. The laughter, music, and general entertainment which comes out of a single small package like this one have helped to build that morale.
Okay, that's no
the
secret.
The CIA is funneling information into Hollywood. Hollywood is putting out in the movies, and the population believes it.
It's one of our classics.
Taxes to bury the Axis.
Our motion picture Hollywood Disney of today would never make something as patriotic as this. I mean, I know this is, what was this, pulled or censored at this current day and age. Back then, I mean, it was an important message. Thank goodness that we had the balls then to just be clear about a message. You can call this indoctrination if you want, but it's important to paint an enemy as an enemy. So this one, like, I'm going to kind of give okay, I understand why we're playing it. Let me see the further implication. Walt Disney, sure.
This document right here is a FOIA document. Anybody in America, anybody can request this. It's Freedom of Information Act. And in the 40s, they were telling you they controlled the radio stations. They controlled most of the mainstream media. They're telling you right here that motion pictures are used as psychological warfare. Why would they stop doing it?
Not a shock, and exactly.
At no time has the CIA engaged in any political activity or any intelligence activity. It was not approved at the highest level.
Alan Dulles groomed and recruited Ian Fleming, and Dulles.
You betray our intelligence not only then, but now and every day.
The CIA actually helped Fleming write his books and paint the CIA in a favorable light. And they also, Dulles helped
instead of being what I have now grown to call domestic terrorists. Sorry, not sorry.
Produce Thunderball to make the CIA and agents look like honorable, cool people. The CIA actually helped him write the books and write the script for that movie. And then the president of MPAA was actually providing intelligence to the CIA as an operative in that position in Hollywood.
Mr. Fleming, in your books there's a great amount of detail. Is this detail based on personal experience? Do you make it up? Where does it come from?
Well, I can say it's 90% from personal experience, really. Of course, if I started sticking too close to the true espionage work of today, I should be in trouble with the Official Secrets Act in England, even supposing I had access to information.
First time I've ever seen that clip. Interesting. Yes, they have gone too far. Yes, they have been going too far. It is no longer about national security. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. That's from William J.
There's
Casey.
no question about the fact that Mockingbird is real. It started out
Can hope you're watching.
In major media, Pulitzer Prize winning journalists to print fake stories that the CIA wanted in the press and fake interviews.
Gulf of Tonkin.
And this was revealed in the Church Committee.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to a major circulation American journal? We do have people who submit pieces to American journals.
And of course, then the CIA destroyed the rest of the files, which is what they do.
There's the famous archival footage of the fabled heart attack gun, which was, this is back in the late 60s, early 70s, folks, where the technology was a little bit, by today's standards, not up to snuff. Now, this technology, we haven't heard about. The CIA hasn't had a committee hearing and a public hearing since then. I wonder why, and why are we okay with it? And they have not had to showcase, and I suppose, somebody would stand up and say, that's for national security reasons. But look at every, I'm going to go there, look at every whistleblower that we have that has some strange circumstances that cannot be explained. If you did not see when I was able to remember and pulled the original footage up, this is the gun that shoots a bullet that is merely made of a poison that is frozen and encased in frozen water, ice. And it hits you, and it melts inside, and is nearly undetectable, untraceable, and it would appear that you had a heart attack and moved on. And we haven't heard about it since, and I guarantee you they didn't just stop.
George H.W. Bush came out and finally made the statement about Mockingbird. Well, we're going to officially stop the Mockingbird program. The CIA will no longer pay journalists to write stories. From now on, the program is voluntary, which means Mockingbird continues today. When's the last time you've seen a mainstream media outlet do a serious investigative report on the actions of the CIA? There's a reason for that.
This would mean that the CIA could manipulate the news in the United States by channeling it through some foreign country. And we're looking at that very carefully. Would you say that continues today?
Well, I would think probably for a reporter it would continue today, but because of all of the revelations of the period of the 1970s, it seems to me that a reporter's got to be much more circumspect in doing it now, or he runs the risk of at least being looked at with considerable disfavor by the public. I think you've got to be much more careful about it.
YouTube, nothing but love, okay? We love the First Amendment here. CanCon played this on his rumbles.com and locals.
Exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
There is something about
the way the CIA has been functioning that is casting a shadow on our historic position of freedom, and I feel we need to correct it.
Senator Moynihan proposed a bill to dismantle the CIA.
Did he survive?
Introduced it twice. The second time was 1995. Ironically, 1 year later in 1996, the CIA established the Entertainment Liaison Office, which was specifically penetrated into Hollywood, and Chase Brandon was actually co-wrote scripts. For example, The Recruit.
Work for high horsepower, high energy, very competitive people who are driven by patriotism and a sense of wanting to serve a greater cause.
I am recruiting you. Would I have to kill you?
Yeah.
Would you like to?
So making it look sexy to be in the CIA. While I remember, one of my next videos... You know what? Let me keep that announcement. Screw it. Okay. I have compiled a collection of every inventor and individual from around the globe, mostly in our own United States, of people that were able to create engines or water-powered anything, vehicles, cars, that suddenly appeared unalived, and their information and studies and notes gone. And in some of the cases, we actually have foreign governments or our own government trying to purchase the patent and rights and information from these very inventors, and it is a very discouraging, alarming number of how many people. Just a simple search, and you can get a grasp at how many people were publicly known for finding alternative resources for energy, and just that popular term, unalived, just seems to meet their lives very, very early on, and it's very, very polarizing, alarming, and sad. And secondly, what I want to say is, while I understand on YouTube, maybe right now, and this is not any shade on anyone, because we police our own and we police our streets on these YouTube streets, you may want to be watching more about the drama unfold. This right here to me is what the progressive patriot mission is really about. There's always going to be people that are local and seem like nothing burgers on YouTube or online that try to distract me and anger me, and I'm only human and I'm not infallible, and I will go after them, and I may not look the best doing it. But with that being said, if ever you want to understand what it is I'm trying to accomplish, it's bringing the issues like this to our households so that we can be unified in seeing the real big problems and issues that are happening day to day that we allow to happen. So let's get informed and let's get it done.
The CIA was and is in Hollywood, was and is contributing to Hollywood productions and that manipulation.
The Recruit. Nothing is what it seems.
As I started to wake up, I never actually considered...
I have a feeling Indy in here has seen this. Just something tells me. This is a stunt man that was in a lot of major motion pictures. He did all the great stunts, and he is just whistle blowing the hell out of everything he experienced in Hollywood.
The CIA had an office in Hollywood, and I'm like, well, I see this, I see that. And I started putting feelers out, like, does anybody else see this stuff? And not many people were awake. But the one person that I reached out to was an old colleague of mine, a friend of mine named Brad Martin. And Brad and I had similar careers. We worked our way up through the business together. And I'm like, hey, Brad, you've seen this? You've seen that? He's like, yeah, for sure. And so that gave me strength. That gave me like, okay, well, I'm not alone in this deal. And I'm going to keep looking.
Let me just say this. Brad's one of the greatest stuntmen I've ever met. Probably the best.
I'm a very physically creative person. I've been doing action for movies for 26, 27 years. I excelled at the action aspect of it, at the physical aspect of doing the fights and doing the gymnastics and doing the falls and doing the driving. I trained really hard to become one of the top stuntmen in the business. I started becoming a fight coordinator, and then a stunt coordinator, and then an action director. Very few people have ever gotten to where I've gotten to, and I'm super proud of what I did.
Tropic Thunder.
I mean, I had a very idealistic view of the movie business, and I've been disillusioned
the other guys
a few times. It feels very much like there's an agenda in every movie. I realized that it was more of a machine, and it was more of they just needed content to put out there for the masses. I stopped really watching TV. I stopped really watching movies. And one of the reasons why I stopped watching movies is I got into my research and what's going on in the world right now, and all the corruptness and all of the plot twists of reality.
Every good person that becomes very successful in their field, that is disenfranchised from continuing and enjoying their success, means they have what's called integrity and a heart. And that is something that is just growing to be so rare in our own country. I think I remember seeing this portion somewhere, and I hope this man's okay, because I think I remember that there's not a good end here. So I'm going to let him roll, then I'm going to jump to the next clip because I don't want a strike.
And I started realizing that reality is 20 times more interesting than Hollywood. I mean, I was a Hollywood buff. I loved all of those movies, but now they're meaningless, because I know what's going on right now actually has purpose and has a meaning, and there are consequences. And once this story is told on what's happening in the world right now, and all of the powers that be battling each other, it will be the greatest story ever told.
We're waiting. We've been waiting. We're more ready than ever to receive the message. Our consciousness, I feel, is at that point. It's either A or a B. We're either at the tipping point of just being conquered, falling, and losing all of our freedoms and our constitutional rights and everything that we love about living in this country, or something is going to collectively happen where the powers that be recognize we're way too onto them, and it's little pockets and channels and our CanCons and other people that are journalists and that keep their receipts and uncover truths that are inconvenient that can help this general awakening. I don't know what else to call it. Will it be A or will it be B?
Like, for instance, I saw something on History Channel talking about how the CIA helped Disney buy all the swampland in Florida. Well, why on earth would they do that?
His lawyers in charge of purchasing the parcels had served in military intelligence during World War II and knew how to keep a secret. And they used several different companies, none with Disney's name, to acquire the properties.
Now I go down this rabbit hole of what does the CIA have to do with Hollywood, or at least with Disney? Washington, D.C. is definitely in Hollywood. I have seen documents of the DOD and the CIA writing to...
I'm going to start doing my own FOIA requests starting the beginning of next week, by the way. There are specific things that I compiled from your emails that I want to see how far an everyday citizen can get to the truth, unredacted.
The studio heads, guiding them in certain fashion. There's a lot of things that people would talk about that are conspiracy theory, but there's some things that ring true with me. It's like, oh wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Super soldier.
Another program developed by the CIA after World War II was called Operation Paperclip. It's been depicted in many movies,
and it's real. It's frickin' real. It's on the list of lifting the veil,
including Disney's Marvel series.
It's Operation Paperclip after World War II. Shield recruited German scientists.
Telling you the truth with lies. What is this? The saying I was taught once. An artist tells you the truth with lies. The government tells you lies with the truth. Something to that effect.
With strategic value.
Thought I could help their cause.
Operation Paperclip, and this is something people need to know because it has been so covered up and mocked and berated and claimed to be a conspiracy theory. And by the way, the term labeling people as conspiracy theorists was invented by the CIA to deflect any attention over the JFK assassination.
I say that every time it's brought up. Let that just soak in. Anytime that you are made to be a pariah or ostracized because you're thinking out of the box and people are just saying, no, it's impossible, you're crazy. Conspiracy theorists be like, oh, thank you, you just proved my point. That's the term invented by the people that want to control the truth and the narrative. Thank you for proving my point.
They invented that word as a way to shut down any scrutiny or this critical investigation of what they were doing. So they started that whole ball rolling.
Lockdowns.
In terms of Operation Paperclip, it is documented. There's absolutely no question about it. Alan Dulles, CIA director, was an associate of Heinrich Himmler of the Third Reich. So what Dulles proceeded to do when the Third Reich was brought down was he secretly brought all of the top Nazi scientists into the U.S. He falsified their files that he gave to Harry Truman, making them look like there were no war crimes.
The monsters within.
They brought these Nazi scientists into the CIA to work for the CIA, and that includes the human experiments they conducted on Jewish men, women, and children, and the psychological studies that these Nazi scientists had done. The CIA was using their expertise for these programs through Operation Paperclip, and this was Nazi, much of it occult beliefs that the CIA adopted and actually put these people on their payroll.
Fair use, YouTube. Fair use, education.
Was MK Ultra.
All right. So MK Ultra is the thing that Con and I will be covering at great length. It's actually going to be our part 2 tomorrow night. I get stirred up and pissed off every time I remember, or I'm just simply reminded. We know the truth. Sometimes there was another saying that I've learned. Sometimes we just don't accept that we know everything, because if we did, it would drive us insane. There are so many stranger than fiction truths that we are aware of that sometimes we have to dull our own thinking just to live comfortably, somewhat disillusioned even, just to get by another day. I might jump back, but I wanted to see, before it gets down the whole MK Ultra and the entire thing, what this man said. When was this, by the way? 1 month ago. I hope there's no copyright, and I'm taking the risk under fair use, educational purposes, okay? I'm just going to start it right from here, and I want to hear what this man has to say. This is going and delving back into organ harvesting and human trafficking.
Talk about human trafficking. That's where I want the focus of our day to be spent. How did you get involved in this topic? Why this particular aspect of human trafficking? Why should people see the film?
Yeah, so when I got out in 2016, I still felt this need, this desire to serve in some way. I've talked to a lot of other veterans who feel the same way when they get out, that sense of purpose. There's a difference between having a job and serving. So I wanted to find that way. And there were different things that were thrown my way. So I would go to inner city schools. And
his audio is a little low, and I'll do the best I can here.
And juvenile centers, and talk to the kids and hang out with the kids and bring them out of the hood and take them to nice restaurants to try to expose them to different things. I did prison work where I went into prisons, men and women's prisons, and spoke and shared and did outreach there. And then the reoccurring theme that kept on popping up was human trafficking, and I wasn't chasing it. It was like it just kept on coming my way. In 2016, I want to say, a nonprofit by the name of Without Permission reached out to me and asked me to be part of a rally. They had heard my story and asked if I could come help out with their efforts in human trafficking. And a year later, Lindsay, I believe her last name is Snyder, she's the owner of In-N-Out Burger, her nonprofit reached out to me, Slave to Nothing, and asked me if I would be willing to help out with a fundraiser that they would do it. So it just kept on coming up. And then fast forward to about 2017, 2018, I was contacted by another human trafficking nonprofit that actually employs former special operations guys, whether you're Delta, SEALs, Army Special Forces, Force Recon, and three-letter agency guys who go into other countries and rescue kids who are trapped in sex trafficking and organ harvesting, but also arrest Americans who go down to foreign countries to have sex with underage girls who are trafficked victims. And
I have a whole segment that I had to. This is where I've had to self-teach myself editing. I did find it took a lot of doing footage of Americans that travel to like Thailand, Singapore, that try to take advantage of different laws or whatever, mostly wealthy Americans with connections, and getting them got. And thank goodness we can find an example of three-letter agencies being mentioned in some sort of a positive light. It's just, there's no balance there, though. The wrong that they are involved in actively, proxy wars and everything else in between, filling, just, you know where it can go and where it's been. So I don't know if I can ever look at them in a positive light again like I once did, which was indoctrination, which is Mockingbird.
And that was a big eye-opening experience for me, especially being a father. I'll never forget, you met my wife, and when I was pitched the opportunity to go do this, they sent me a video, and me and my wife watched it, and she was just like, go! I know you're done with the SEAL thing. I know I told you you can hang that up, but you need to go do something. And so I went down there, and as I said, it was an eye-opening experience. And where the gears began to turn for me is I went down to Dominican Republic one year in 2018, July 2018 to be exact. And when I was down there, I was in this particular slum where the parents would sell their daughters to sex traffickers. And the traffickers would take their daughters to the northern part of DR where the tourists would come, and these tourists would have sex with the underage girls. We know that the profile for Americans who travel, the profile for men who travel abroad to have sex with underage kids are American men. And so this took place in DR. And when I was in this slum, I couldn't grasp the concept as a father of selling my child to a trafficker, no matter how desperate I was. And our liaison recognized how kind of confused and perturbed I was. So he pulled me aside to help me better understand. And he took me into...
How do you explain that? How do you explain that? That is confounding to me. What level of depravity could ever have a father or mother, considering I think one of the worst sins or wrongdoings, crimes that we could possibly do is selling our own, forfeiting our own, the most vulnerable that we must protect genetically, to traffickers. Let me see how they explain this to him, because I certainly couldn't understand.
To this chapel in this slum that was no bigger than the size of 3 toilet stalls.
Hey, it's a mood.
And at the end of the chapel was a dead baby, 6-month-old baby in a casket. And he explained to me that the baby died because the mother wasn't getting enough food and water, so her breast milk dried up, and therefore she mixed formula with the local water, and that's what killed the baby. And he used that as a teaching moment for me to help me to understand. He was like, this is their plight. I'm not justifying why the parents do what they do, but they're desperate. So for them, it's either we sell our daughter to these traffickers or all of our kids die. And again, that didn't...
Okay. Am I speaking from a position of privilege? I probably am. Maybe I am. I can't imagine having a huge family and all the siblings and selling not a one of my child so that they all can survive. But, you know, that's me, and I'm the one that's armchair worrying this topic. So, okay, do continue. Remy Adelke, I wrote your name down because I'm going to do some research on you, buddy.
Didn't make it wholly understandable to me, but it did give me a sense of understanding. And when I left DR on that trip and got back to the States, as soon as I landed, I had a voicemail by Michael Bay's producing partner, Mike Case. And he said, hey, Michael's looking for you because he's starting his next movie, 6 Underground, with Netflix, and he wants you to be the lead consultant on it. And it was through that conversation, that situation, I got hired into the job. It was like these two worlds collided. Here, this world of human trafficking that I have been working in and out for about 3 years, and then film and TV that I had been working in during the same time. And in my mind, I was like, you know what? I can go down to South America and other countries, and even here in America, kick down 100 doors and rescue 300 kids. But at the end of the day, there's going to always be 100,000 more kids that needs to be rescued. What can I do to have a bigger impact? And when we go overseas to do missions, I'm sure we discussed this while we were on the show, but when we go overseas to do missions, there's something called winning the hearts and the minds of the locals. And we use civil affairs units as well as PSYOPs units, and they'll go into the local town and they'll, rebuild schools, they'll hand out soccer balls, they'll rebuild soccer fields.
Just like our more impoverished areas in our own country. So when you hear a foreign land being described and it sounds a little close to home, just remember that. These same atrocities happen here to some degree.
So on and so forth, and to win the hearts and minds so that the locals can help us do our job, help us find the bad guy or not hide the bad guy, and so on and so forth. And so that's what I decided I wanted to do. I wanted to create a film, a piece of media where I could put out into the ether and people can watch and be compelled to do something. They can watch, be shocked, and say, oh my God, I didn't know that was happening, and get engaged in the fight because it's a global issue.
I like that. I love that. He's explaining things in a way that I've never articulated. I want to be the one that helps showcase something that you get to realize and see, like, I want to get in that fight. I'm willing to engage and get in that fight because it's the right thing to do. It's more than the American thing to do. It's the right thing to do. I respect this man's ambition a lot. He's just made a brand new fan.
Human trafficking alone in America generates about $32 billion a year. Globally, about $150 billion a year. So it's a massive enterprise on track to surpass the drug.
Where does the money go? That's my next question. Where can we find the money? Follow the money.
Trade. And so for me, that's where I felt like I could have the biggest impact, and that's kind of how this film was birthed.
You can't imagine how massive it is. That's wild. We think of human trafficking, we mostly
$32 billion.
Think about
a year,
labor, sort of slavish labor, slave labor, and the sex trafficking. You don't often think about the organ trafficking and how that whole world.
Where was our 3-letter agencies? I'm sorry, but with Ghislaine and Epstein, where were our hero 3-letter agencies that have been, sexified by Hollywood to look like 007s and suave G-men, cracking down his door? Oh, that's right. No, flight logs and blackmail and compromising footage. That's right. It's all controlled because he just got the right people in power. Okay, that's right. So back to reality. The bad guys win.
Works. It always seems so fantastic. Like, well, maybe somewhere out in the periphery. but your movie brings it home. Did you write, produce, and direct it? What were your roles in this?
I don't know the movie.
Yep, I wrote, produced, consulted on, and directed the
Six
short
Underground.
Film. And you know, and the reason why I wanted to make sure I had my hand in it because I wanted it to be as authentic as possible. That film is based on true events. It's not some fiction or horror film that I pulled out of my butt. It's based off of true events. I don't want to give away too much, but there's an event that took place August 3rd of 2014. I encourage anybody after they watch the film, but don't do it before you watch the film. Google it after you watch the film. Just Google August 3rd, 2014, and then genocide, and you'll see how that connects to the film because there's some events that took place at the U.S. Congress and even the UN classified as genocide, and the film deals with the victims of that genocide. So it's based off of true events. It's not something I pulled out of my ass.
No, we wish it were just that. I wish it was somebody's pulling their ass and not something real. We've been doing some supporting Eliza Blue, who's a friend of ours that does a lot on sex trafficking and sort of and even when you start to raise awareness about the full spectrum of what that really is, you know, the idea of, how can I say this in a way that's accurate, that it's not just the over-the-top explicit sex trafficking that there's all kinds of other flavors of it out there that people get manipulated into, and
100%. Yeah, and I know you brought up a great point. And when typically, as you said, when people hear human trafficking, they just think of sex trafficking for the most part.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, there's sex trafficking, there's labor, there's drug trafficking. I interviewed a guy a few weeks ago. I just released his interview today on YouTube. He was lured to Mexico from Venezuela. And he was, once he got there with the promise that he would be smuggled into the U.S., he was put in a house with 100 other traffic victims, and the kids were used to move drugs into the U.S. So they were used as mules. So that's another form of trafficking. And then obviously, there's labor, as I mentioned, and organ harvesting, which the film touches on. But then you have other facets like blood trafficking. There's a story out of Cambodia, international story that was on the news a few months ago, of this businessman from China who traveled to Cambodia, and he was essentially abducted and blood trafficked. This gang kept him strapped up and kept drawing his blood. For what reasons? No one really knows.
Okay, wow. I actually like quivered. That is so disturbing. Oh my God! Imagine being lured, strapped up, and just slowly drained. And what I was thinking before I got to that part was, why can I hear all of these facts that are just horrifying and basically not even bat an eye? It's just, I was thinking, are we that desensitized? And also I think back to they've been taken down, but they go by another name. They were a big private enterprise mercenary base. It was mostly former military. It wasn't Black Hawk, Blackgate. They got busted in a huge child trafficking sexual ring, Play-Doh, and there was a lot of people involved. A lot of wealthy folks, politically connected, and this is another example where three-letter agencies helped bust it. But I do believe that there was compromise. There was some. If there's false information here, someone correct me. But I do believe that some of the agents that were supposed to be covering the case got involved and were not completely forthcoming, or maybe they were going under the guise of being deep undercover, but. Some of the lengths that this went. Yeah, man, I guess my mind's all over the place with how horrified I am in general. And thank goodness I felt that little quiver when he talked about this blood trafficking thing, because I was worrying about my own humanity, because I hear these things and I worry about all of us as a population, knowing these atrocities occur and just being too damn content to care, caught up in our own dramas.
But he finally escaped. So there's all these different facets. And even there's times when I even hate to use the word human trafficking. It's slavery. It's slavery. I think human trafficking is the PC way of saying slavery, because at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I don't know why it's not more present to mind. It's so in the shadow.
That's what I'm trying to tap into, Dr. Drew. By the way, support Dr. Drew and the original content creator. How is it that we all are aware of it as a huge problem, but it just every day just goes by, and this system of human trafficking or slavery happens every day, every night, every second, every minute, and we just are able to talk about it and shine a light on it, but we can never seemingly get close to why it's happening, how it's happening, and who's making it happen.
Shadows, and yet it's so big and so much and so obvious when you start looking for it. How do they keep it so thoroughly in the shadows?
Well, they're intelligent, just like, drugs we don't see, well, now, depending on what I was talking to a buddy of mine, a SEAL buddy of mine who was in Canada this past weekend, and he said that there was a law passed where you could smoke crack out on the street and not essentially get arrested. And so there's crackheads on one corner and drug dealers on the other corner.
Is he going to go where I think he may go and talk about how our own legislators create crazy, egregious laws that distract everyday civilians, Americans, Canadians from the larger issues? You'll be more concerned about what you can see on your own streets than what you're aware is happening on a grand scale. So that would be a very fascinating strategy. Hey, look, that's tangible. You can see it. You can yell at it. You can be mad at it. It's right around the corner. Go look. It's on 84th and 136, blah, blah, blah. Look, it's legal to smoke crack. That would be easier to incentivize a group of people to do something about than massive human trafficking and child trafficking, organ harvesting, blood trafficking. That seems almost like we're disconnected from it. We haven't seen it. It's not tangible to us. We can't look at it. We can't point at it. We can't get mad at it directly. We can only have this vague sense of anger. I see the strategy plain as day. Let's see where he goes. Let's see if I was spot on or not.
And so, if we go back to the 80s and the 90s, a lot of the drug dealing was done in the shadows as well as, and then you go back even further when we talk about the mafia and other stuff that was done back then. All of that stuff was done in the dark and shadows. The thing is, and what I tried to really focus on this film was how intricate and intelligent these traffickers are. They're not.
Okay, so two different angles. I think both are very viable, though. So he doubles down on how these strategies are able to keep everything in the dark. The light never gets to shine there. So that's why we are pretty much getting to live our lives in somewhat of this disillusionment while it occurs. My angle was it's easier for them to polarize something else and keep us distracted. Both, I think, are credible.
Idiots. As a matter of fact, there was Cairo, Egypt is considered the organ harvesting capital of the world. And in 2016, there was a bust of an organ harvesting ring. And of the 45 people who were arrested, the majority of them were doctors and nurses. And they also confiscated millions of dollars. So you're not dealing with this typical criminal who's not intelligent, who's in the corner, who's dirty, and that's grimy and unmanicured. We're dealing with people who are high level, highly educated, smart,
connected,
well-connected people. And that's why it's able to lurk in the shadows, because of the fact that these people are not idiots. As a matter of fact, and this will be a short tangent I'll go on before I give the mic back to you. There's a story out of, we're starting to realize through source reporting that traffickers are starting to realize that it's more lucrative for them to traffic organs and it's safer than it is for them to traffic people for sex. Because on the black market, a clean heart or lung can go for as much as, it starts at $100,000. A kidney or liver starts at, clean heart and lung starts at $130,000. A liver or kidney starts at $100,000, and corneas of the eyes start at $30,000. So if you take a whole person, we can conservatively say that person can go for $500,000 if their organs are sold on the black market. The average sex traffic victim, it takes them years to make $250,000 for their trafficker, for their pimp.
perhaps, and this is my fault and my fault alone, I spent the day in bed, after a week. I lay down a lot, but I'm actually feeling a bit ill taking this in, and that's good. It reminds me that we're still human. It reminds me that I'm still connected. I'm not completely just desensitized. They look at us just like freaking cattle. We're harvest. We're crops. Yeah, okay. I don't know if I'm going to be able to eat something now.
Or whatever the term we're gonna put on it. So it's more lucrative for them to organ harvest, organ traffic people, and it's safer because they don't have to worry about their victim catching disease or being dealing with an undercover NGO or undercover cop. So again, going back to my main point, these people are intelligent and they've really found different ways to work the dark web. I mean, there was a girl who was trafficked from a Dallas Mavericks basketball game this year. It was a national news story, and she was found on the dark web. She went to the Dallas Mavericks playoff game with her father, went to go use the bathroom, never came back. Father went to go look for her, couldn't find her. Security went to go look for her, couldn't find her. The cops came, couldn't find her. Wow. Cops wrote her off as a runaway. The parents, a few weeks later, employed a human trafficking nonprofit to help find their daughter. The human trafficking nonprofit went on the dark web where these people work and moved. The dark web is real. It's interesting because you'll meet people who don't even believe the dark web exists. It does exist.
Oh, no, it exists.
That's Mockingbird right there. People that look you dead in the face and proclaim that the truth is not the truth. That's either willful ignorance, somebody that's just too afraid of reality itself, or they're just so happy in their little mainstream bubbles. Yes, these things are real.
Her profile was on the dark web. Yeah, her profile was right there on the dark web. She was being sold for sex. So a sting was set up and she was rescued, but she's scarred for the rest of her life.
In our country. Dallas Mavericks, human trafficking, one of my next searches.
Of course, but these people are smart. And some of the traffickers that were at that house when the sting was carried out were at the game that day. So we're not dealing with idiots.
Oh, my God. And it just is so, I mean, you have to think in terms of who or what kind of person can say traffic somebody for sex. It's the kind of person for whom life has no meaning. They could just as easily disassemble somebody and sell their parts.
Okay, so I'm going to, I don't know why this is getting to me so much. I'm going to pause it and I'm going to flip it because there was a link I had opened and I apologize. I must have closed it or maybe I just watched it on my phone. But this is recent, and this is upsetting, possibly triggering. As a parent, like if you're a parent, this may upset you. It's not graphic, but it's disturbing. And this is just going to be an example, and I hope if the individual that did share all of this with me, is this a new email? Riverside County, okay, sorry. Keeping up to speed here. I want to make sure. I think this is. Yep, this is it. Okay, good. If you're here and you see your content being played, own it, say something, and I'll give you the proper shout out. This is in our country. This was uploaded just 20 hours ago, so thank you for being so keen and sharp. I believe you're the one that challenged me to cover some of these, and you said you had emailed. 4 other content creators, and I'm the only one, I think, that said, yes, I'm interested. So bear in mind, this, I guess, happened yesterday, and this is in our own country, in the great state of California. Viewer discretion is advised.
Take a look at this shocking surveillance video showing a California mother being attacked in a parking lot while holding her 1-year-old baby girl. But get this, now a judge dropping the charges against the suspect over lack of courtroom space and a shortage of judges. That mother, Clarissa Guevara, joins me now. I know.
Yeah, the system that we fund with our tax dollars and we're always told is going to take care of us and do right when right is needed to be done. Yeah, this is what happens. We're overworked. We're underpaid by your own tax dollars. We don't have enough staff. We don't have enough justices for your justice.
This is tough for you to rehash what happened, Clarissa, but if you could, please walk us through what happened when you were attacked.
Well, I didn't even know she was behind me at first. I was getting my daughter out my car after getting off of work.
This right here is where her 1-year-old is.
And picking her up from daycare. And my car was an old-fashioned car. It was a 2000 Toyota Camry. So that car you have to lock from the inside on the passenger or driver side. So as you can see, I'm walking around the car, getting my daughter. I have her on my right-hand side on my hip, and I'm trying to go ahead and lock the door. And she comes up from behind me. And I pleaded to her and I asked her, let me put my child down, at least let me put her down. And as you can see, she disregarded everything and just started throwing punches. And my only thought was to protect my child and to make sure that she wasn't getting hit whatsoever, because I knew if I tried to put her down, she was going to try to either kick her or even try to run after her, you know? So my only thought was to shield her. She just kept going and going. As soon as I heard a pop by my ear of my daughter getting punched and then her high-pitched scream in my ear, that scream, like I said previously, that scream, it lives with me forever. It scarred me, it scarred my daughter. I don't know how else to describe, but just I'm hurt that she's getting away with this.
I can't imagine that. I mean, we're all sort of breathless here listening to you recount that. We recall that this individual was a friend of yours at some point. Why would this lunatic, former friend, do this to your 1-year-old?
She's psychotic. That's what she is. She has fought 2 pregnant women prior to my situation and not held responsible for it whatsoever.
Okay, so we have 2 prior, I wish I could say convictions, but she is free to be this psychotic, once upon a time friend, has a record of attacking pregnant women, and now she's attacking a woman with a 1-year-old child in her bosom, and she is free to go. She's free to go. I don't, this is dystopian. We're in the Twilight Zone. We have entered the outer limits, folks.
So, this is...
God, come on.
I apologize. What was that?
No. Speaking of not being held responsible, now, not only do you have to deal with that horrible memory of your 1-year-old screaming in agony, but now you have to deal with the Riverside County DA's office. They say that the court system is dismissing 200 criminal cases countywide because there's not enough courtroom space available.
Why would we worry or bother being concerned about anarchy when the system as it is saying we're too overbooked to institute justice and civility? I just, they're feeding and shoveling us shit and telling us it's freaking gold here, man. Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining over here. The system ain't serving us, and they have said, okay, 200 different crimes, all just innocent. Everybody's innocent. Go about your day. Go about your business. Now, God forbid, one out of those 200, if not all of them, the perpetrator involved comes back to go finish the job. What then? Our great state of California, lawmakers, panderers, play-to-play politicians, and just absolute pretenders, man. Disassociated. I guarantee you, if this was somebody connected who was attacked, absconded, and had their child, they would be hell to pay. But this is just an everyday working American. Justice doesn't work for us. Just us for only us. Because the system doesn't work for us.
Not enough judges. What goes through your mind when you hear an excuse like that that's basically going to let the person who did this to you and your daughter walk free?
The day that I went to the court was Halloween at 1:30. My DA expected me to be there at 1:30 to speak to the judge, to plead to him to close the case. And after me pleading to him multiple times in my statement that I wrote, he still ended up saying, there's not enough courtrooms in the Riverside County, we're dismissing your case. As soon as I heard dismiss, I couldn't hold my tears back because my 1-year-old daughter ended up getting hurt by someone who's way older than her. It is my job as the mother to make sure my daughter's protected, and that day it was violated, it was taken.
And it's our system's job, our so-called system's job to have protected you and done right by what happened to you. This egregious crime. And the criminal, the psychotic woman that attacked you and your 1-year-old not being put away, please do not cry and blame yourself. This is the system failing all of us.
We're looking at a picture.
Sorry.
No, please, there's no need to apologize. After what you went through, every mother and every parent would feel the same way. Let me just say, you did nothing wrong. You did everything you could. You stood up for your daughter. You're still trying to stand up for your daughter, but it is a messed up system that is preventing you from doing so. And it's so important that you're here today to point that out. We can't have this in a civilized society. I hate to ask this next question, Clarissa, but are you scared of what this suspect walking free could do?
This I have not seen.
Even, in other words, like, could this person come back and bother you again?
Yes, sir, she can.
God forbid. For the sake of the sanity and the peace on the streets of California, this woman better not be accosted by the same perpetrator. And then it is learned that when you had a chance to intervene and employ the justice that we're all trained to trust and use our tax dollars to fund, didn't occur, and then the worst possible outcome does occur, hell hath no fury like a population-scorned motherfucker.
Definitely she can. Knowing that she knows where my child lays her head at. Knowing that she's walking away free and bragging that she's not held responsible, that terrifies me as a mother for my child.
This is what happens in a system, especially in the state of California, where you fund everything else, allowing illegals to do whatever they want, funding this woke program, that woke program, instead of providing money for the court system and not allowing prosecutors or not keeping prosecutors from doing their job. That's the reason this is probably going away too. There aren't enough prosecutors because the state of California has made it impossible to do the job of being a prosecutor, that people are throwing their hands up and saying, I don't want to be here anymore. And you can't tell me that there aren't enough courtrooms there in Hemet, in Riverside County, in Riverside itself, over in Indio. There has to be one courtroom that could hear this case to put away potentially the suspect who allegedly did this to your daughter. I'm ticked. I can't imagine
Allegedly.
how upset you are as the mother.
My blood boils. It boils to the core knowing that she got away.
Is allegedly applicable here when we just saw it?
And that she's bragging about that she got away.
Wow.
When you look at this on the whole, do you wonder, will criminals...
The powers that be are just begging for mob justice. They admonish it time and time again, but if the system fails us, what are we left with? Nothing but us to take it into our own hands, and they don't want that.
Ever be held accountable for anything when they can commit a crime and then the courtroom says, we don't have enough space?
That terrifies me, knowing that they're dismissing so many cases, robberies, domestic violence at that. There's so many domestic violence cases that got dismissed, and it's terrible.
I remember covering Hemet. Hemet oftentimes does have some crime. Would you say crime over the course of the last couple of years has gotten significantly worse in the town of Hemet and the surrounding community?
Somewhat, yeah.
Okay. I just know that, Riverside County can ebb and flow based upon who's in office. And right now it appears that the individuals in office are letting you, Clarissa Guevara, down and the rest of the great people of that great county.
I do want to write her name down because I want to keep track and tabs if she's victimized again. So, real quick, bear with me. I know I didn't have to pause it. Clarissa Guevara. Let's find out, because we're going to hold our people accountable. We're going to hold our systems and institutions and departments, our judicial system, our legislators, our politicians, everybody that seems to think they don't live by the same frickin' rules because they don't have as small bank accounts as the rest of us. I'm going to keep tabs on this woman, and God forbid if a hair is harmed by the same damn person when the opportunity was there to do something about it, or God forbid her child as well. Well, let's see what happens at that point, man. I'm getting really, really hyped up here.
Thank you for joining us. I know this wasn't easy, but hopefully telling your story will help stop this absolute insanity. We appreciate it. Best of luck to you and your beautiful, beautiful, beautiful little daughter, Carly. I'm Steve Doocy.
Okay, all right. So clearly there's more content to cover and whatnot. I literally hopped out of bed just with this inclination. And let me take a moment to thank the two. Now, you know what? Stop mentioning them. Look, I'm having a conversation with myself. The two little fools trying to pit Creek squatters against each other. It was your stupid comments on Power Stroke's video trying to cast shade on me for questioning the woman that came forward. All I said is, how verifiable or how trustworthy is she? When is being a skeptic not to be rewarded? Aren't we supposed to ask questions? Isn't this been what this entire segment I've just done been about? Remember, if you say conspiracy, you're a part of the conspiracy. Conspiracies don't exist. I want the truth to prevail. And to prevail, we have to ask questions that are sometimes uncomfortable. Because then, God forbid, down the line, everything is thrown out and taken not to be accounted for because we learned something was off or not credible. And that's all. I want to keep things honest and straightforward. If we're going to take somebody down, we got to make sure that we got our P's and Q's. Dot the I's, cross the T's. That's no shade at Power Stroke. I'm proud of his live. I think he and his father did an amazing job. I am 100% at their side. I just would not want to see their upswing be chopped down. The truth must prevail. But for that to happen, again, we have to be willing to question what it is we see and hear and hold everything and everyone under the sun accountable. That's all. So thank you, you two trolls just trying to stir the pot and cause beefs. And he handled you very eloquently, saying, oh, I understand why he'd want to verify some facts. Thank you for having a clear and calm head about things, because unfortunately some people just want to see the world burn just for their amusement, and that's what I think these two individuals are about. That aside, that's going back on the smaller things. This to me was progressive patriot. Not talking about myself in the third term, but for the video to ever be replayed, I want people to know where to find the mission, this community. This is where, yes, we police our own and we keep our eye on the prize of the biggest issues possible, pool our resources, and discover and learn daily what we can possibly do to speak truth to power. We find the things that unify us. We identify the things that we're told are meant to divide us. And we let it be what? An invitation to more conversation and not confrontation, not trolling, not stirring the shit and trying to see people go after another that otherwise would get along just because, I don't know, we're bored. I don't understand, but that understanding that is low on my priority list. Some of the issues that I've brought here, I can promise you, as the man with the platform and people behind me that are keeping all of us uplifted together, that all the things I mentioned earlier, the footage of Americans traveling to Thailand and Singapore and doing what we have discussed earlier and other things, my first edited video is to come very soon. And I did the first thing I did when I woke up before reading the comments was call my friend the barber to get me in touch with his boy DT, the one suing the county for falsely imprisoning him for 3 years and condemning him to a 20-year sentence that he did not have to serve. And now his suing the county is just, well, the taxpayers footing the bill for the screw up of our own precinct and police. That's the world we live in, and I was going to do a Cronkite, and that's just the way it is until we change it. And it starts here. It starts there. It starts with us. Be the change you want to see in the world, and only then can we speak truth to power. Shine a light in the darkness. Good night, one and all, and thank you for joining me, Progressive Patriot, tonight. Thank you.